Clay Travis from Fox Sports, OutKickTheCoverage.com, joins us now. What kind of holes do you see in those rankings, Clay?
Well, I think that's a big one. And I think it's probably going to get remedied by the end of the year because, remember, Baylor still has the Kansas State game. But if you compare the Baylor and TCU schedules, they actually obviously are playing every single team from the Big 12 the same. So that's a wash. They also played SMU, so that's a wash. And they both played one FCS opponent. So basically what you're saying is TCU deserves to go to the playoff because they played Minnesota and because Baylor played Buffalo. Now, look, Minnesota is in the Big Ten, but it's not like they're a really good Big Ten school. I don't think we should determine the playoff based on who played Minnesota. And right now, that's effectively what's happening.
Yeah, well, I think Minnesota plays a large role here because also Ohio State with Minnesota as well with the Big Ten.
It's the largest role that Minnesota's played in the national championship picture since the 1930s.
Oregon jumping over Florida State, I think, caught some people by surprise there. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with it on this week, but I do think that I like the committee showing that being undefeated is not tantamount to being better than another team. I feel like college football for way too long has kind of followed this line of thought, which doesn't happen in the NFL, which doesn't happen in college basketball, which doesn't happen in any other sport, which is no matter who you're playing against, if you're undefeated, you're better than teams with losses. Yeah. And I think if Alabama beats Mississippi State, for instance, my top four coming into the week, this is assuming, by the way, that Florida State gets past Miami, which the line is down to 1.5. I mean, there's no guarantee on that. But I think that both Alabama, Oregon, and Mississippi State, given what they had done, would deserve to be ranked above Florida State.
If Mississippi State loses to Alabama, do they drop out of the top four?
No, I think they should be third. I think it should be number 1, Alabama, number 2, Oregon, number 3, Mississippi State, number 4, Florida State.
Now, this is assuming that you have the other schools win. So Mississippi State loses, but the other three.
Yeah, and I'm assuming they don't lose like 52-3 or something like that. That would change things. But assuming they're competitive on the road at Alabama, Dan, I think they should still be in the top four. And by the way, Alabama would be favored over every team in the country. So can we really penalize Mississippi State for going on the road and losing in Tuscaloosa when we think every other team in the country also would?
Also, it seems like whenever I bring this up that I'm happy with the 14 playoff, everybody wants to now go to 8. And I like that there's controversy. I like that these spots mean something. I don't want everybody getting in. I like that there's more intrigue this late in the season in the regular season than ever before, but I don't need to go to 6 or 8 anytime soon. I love this. And, yes, somebody is going to get jobbed here. 2 or 3 schools are going to get jobbed in their opinion. But it creates dialogue. And if I'm the NCAA, if I'm this committee, I love this.
I'd want to go 8. I agree with you. I think there'd be as much dialogue about 8, 9, and 10 as there is 4, 5, and 6 because people love for there to be a controversy. And really, college football, I think, is unique in all sports because all we do is argue. The entire premise of college football is arguing. This conference is better than that one. This league is not as strong. This team is a dynasty. It's unlike anything else. Nobody sits around and says, boy, the NFC East is really strong this year, and the AFC South, boy, they suck. Because nobody really cares because you make the playoff and you still, you cross-pollinate. The teams are all playing. But we really don't get very many games against each other. That's why bowl games matter. That's why I think the playoff would matter and why 8 teams, to me, is good because then you go with all 5 Big 5 champions. They're in. So we don't have to sit around and say, is Ohio State going to get in if they win the Big Ten? Is Florida State going to get in? Everybody knows that the best team would theoretically be advancing from each conference, and then 8 teams is just ideal. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I don't want to get there yet. I don't, because once you go to 8, Clay, then it's just a matter of time. You'll go to 12, you'll go to 14, you go to 16. I don't want to do that. That's what I hate about college basketball. College basketball is starting, and nobody cares.
Yeah, they should start college basketball after college football ends. I've been on this for a while. Go away with March Madness and do May Madness instead. I don't understand why they need to. I agree with you. I love college basketball, but I don't pay a bit of attention to college basketball until they actually start the conference schedule because the NFL and college football are going on, and that's what people care about.
And the games don't mean anything. One more item here. How does Ohio State get into the Final Four?
I don't think they will, is the easy answer. But in order to get in, I think they need several things to happen. One, Florida State needs to lose, which could happen. They could lose to Miami. They could lose to Florida. They could lose, honestly, to Boston College or the ACC title game. If Florida State loses one game, they're not going to make it. Two, you need something to happen with these Big 12 teams. Either you need Baylor to lose to Kansas State. Remember, there's no title game there. Or you need TCU to lose on the road Thursday night, Thanksgiving game at Texas. That's actually going to be a pretty tough game. You need some chaos to happen in the SEC, maybe a situation where Alabama beats Mississippi State and then Auburn beats Alabama, and then Mississippi State loses to Ole Miss, where you got several two-loss teams, and at bottom, maybe none, but at least only one SEC team gets in. Ohio State, I think, is not going to be on the outside looking in, but chaos can happen. They just need quite a bit of it.
Yeah, this is the only thing that bothers me about this is that you have teams that get better later in the year, and in other sports, we acknowledge that. In college football, we don't. And I think
that's why you need 8 teams, Dan.
One more thing. You being a proud graduate of Vanderbilt Law, I saw where North Carolina football player, I think it's James McAdoo, is going to sue the university for a sham education that he got because he got in these classes that it seemed like you didn't even have to show up. Is there any is there any weight to this that you could actually sue the university because you got a bad education?
Dan, I could sue you right now for defamation for making a joke about me while I'm on the interview with you. It wouldn't be a legitimate lawsuit, but I could do it. That's exactly what McAdoo is doing here. You can't sue somebody, and I'm just being, blatantly honest here. You can't sue somebody for something you chose to do.
But you were put in these classes. He said,
but he knew what he was doing. I mean, at some point he could have said, "Wait a minute, I'm not really getting much of an education here. I would prefer to be in classes that are harder." Like most of us in college, he didn't make that argument. I can sit around with you and tell you when I went into a classroom and I saw that it was filled. I went to GW undergrad. It's not like GW is just giving out free diplomas. But when I walked into a classroom and I saw there were 10 or 15 basketball players in it, I felt pretty good about my odds to do well in that class. I wasn't dropping out, I'll tell you that much.
Thank you, Clay.
All right, I'll see you.
Clay Travis, Fox Sports, and now kickthecoverage.com.